Frank asked me to say a few words on the EPU on the F-16, the Emergency Power Unit, and it provides backup power, both electrical and hydraulic for the F-16. Now remember, the F-16 is an electric jet, so if you lose all electricity or if you lose hydraulic pressure, you can't control the jet anymore. You literally would have to eject in that situation, which is why it has very robust backup systems. So the Emergency Power Unit runs on a source of fuel called hydrazine. Now, if you ever have an activated EPU and an F-16 lands at a small airport or even at a main military base, they treat it like a hazmat situation. The reason is hydrazine is highly toxic and will cause cancer. Not maybe, it will. But the important thing to remember is that a correctly functioning EPU doesn't leak hydrazine. Inside of this EPU, the fuel burns, it spins a turbine that creates power, which powers the electrical system and adds pressure to the hydraulics. Now that hydrazine, as it burns, it mixes with oxygen, the other component for fire, and the resulting byproduct of burning hydrazine is H2O and N2, nitrogen. The atmosphere is made up of like 70% nitrogen or something. So it's just air and water, H2O. A good example of this is the movie The Martian with Matt Damon. If you remember that movie, he needed to create water on Mars. So what did he do? He burned hydrazine. And when he burned hydrazine mixed with the oxygen tank that he had, he got H2O and he was able to grow potatoes, I think it was. So that's hydrazine. So a functioning F-16 EPU is not dangerous. The byproducts are dripping water and air coming out of it. Well, there are a few situations where the EPU will kick on automatically. So in the event of a main and standby generator failure simultaneously, it'll happen. If you lose your engine, the main and standby gen will kick offline and then the EPU will automatically kick on. There's also a switch where the pilot can turn it on. And there are certain checklists where, as a preventative cautionary measure, you actually turn on the EPU ahead of time to prevent any disturbance in the electronics as the engine switches from main power to EPU power. That is the gist around EPU, Emergency Power Unit. If you see an F-16 landing in an emergency with an activated EPU, you will see them treating it like a hazmat situation. Nobody stands downwind of it and they pretend that there is hydrazine leaking for everyone's safety. But that is so incredibly rare. I'm not even aware of any time that has happened. So that's the gist of it. If you have more questions like this, ask them in the comments. Great question, Frank. Like and follow for more.